Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and we have been called to vote, so I will make my remarks short, but I want to join my colleague in a bipartisan concern. We had this very same issue in my district in New Hampshire with a pipeline and lots of obvious concerns by homeowners, by towns, by one town where it was on the map to cross a small stream in that community 12 times. I just had the impression that these people hadn't even come to New Hampshire or at least gotten out of the truck to see. Was proposed to go right between two schools that were a couple of 100 yards apart. So, and I'd invite my Republican colleague to join us. I'm joining Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky and Joe Kennedy today, introducing legislation to establish an Office of Public Participation at the FERC to elevate the voices of average Americans and ensure that they have a seat at the table when FERC makes approval decisions. We can only ask so much of you if it's not within your purview to take that into consideration. So that was the main concern I wanted to raise. The second thing, though, is about the issue of climate change. And in New Hampshire, as in districts all across this country, I believe that climate change poses a very real and existential threat to human life. And I think we can look no further than the Trump administration's own national climate assessment, outlining that without dramatic reductions in greenhouse gas pollution, our economy will lose hundreds of billions of dollars in the coming decades, and not to mention the irreversible impact on human health and environment. So I just want to ask you, Commissioner LaFleur, my constituents voice concerns repeatedly. This is on a daily basis. We get emails and calls and letters about the dramatic expansion of natural gas infrastructure because of the contribution to greenhouse gas emissions. I understand your tenure on the FERC is coming to a close, but do you believe the damaging effects of climate change should be more strongly considered when FERC approves fossil fuel projects?
Thank you for the question, and yes, I do. I think that, first of all, we should make sure that all of the pipelines that we are approving are truly needed by looking at the regional need. I happen to think New England, where there's a lot of gas constraints, might need more gas, although they're doing well with the import in the winter so far. But in addition to making sure things are truly needed, I think that we should take into account in our balancing the impact of the downstream combustion of the gas when it's used. And I've tried to do that on my own by doing some of those figures in my concurrences and saying no, for example, in the two co-located pipelines that Congressman Griffith talked about. I had dissented because I thought they were too close together, but I think it would behoove the Commission to have a process to more squarely consider it.
Thank you very much. And Commissioner McNamee, I understand FERC's responsibility to approve energy projects that are in the public interest. Do you believe that mitigating the damaging effects of climate change are in the public interest and the interest of future generations of Americans?
I believe that climate change is something that we all need to be concerned about. I think the issue about how FERC addresses the issue of climate change and greenhouse gas emissions really has to originate first in our organic statute about the authority, and that's the Natural Gas Act, and how that's supposed to be used to interpret public interest.
Do you interpret that law as giving you any leeway on taking into account the damaging impacts of?
Well, I can tell you that what I do is I also look at our obligations under NEPA to take a hard look at all the environmental issues, including climate change, when I make a decision. I don't think it'd be appropriate because it's a legal issue that comes before us about what does the statute specifically mean, but I can say that we do take a serious look. I personally take a serious look at the issues of greenhouse gas emissions, particularly pursuant to our NEPA responsibilities.
Great. Thank you very much. I yield back.